Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I'm Lauren. I'm a wife and a new mom. I came up with the idea of this podcast after struggling to find mommy groups around me when my son was born. I wanted a community of mothers I heard so many of my friends talk about when they had their children. This podcast is to help mothers like me that want a community of mothers to connect with when they have their free time. Together with my usual guest, Taryn, and other mothers, we will share our experiences, not our advice, through motherhood, and hopefully get some tips from you, the listeners. So come join us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I'm Lauren, your host, and this week I am here without Taryn, but I have a special guest. Her name is Payal, and this was a great interview for me to have on. Payal does wellness coaching, and I think hearing about what she does and changing jobs because she was a mother and wanting to make sure that she was doing what was best for her family was very important. So I really enjoyed my conversation with Payal, and you'll all be happy to know that Payal is not a teacher and not a former teacher either. So I actually do have friends outside of the teacher world. So listen to this podcast all about Payal and her journey through changing careers after having kids and building her own business. I think it's important that we support other women. As I've said before, that's what we do. We want to support each other. And if you want to follow Payal, all her social media contacts are at the end of this podcast. Also on Mommy Escape Time, all of my social media will have it, and on the website if you can't find it. So listen up, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Today, Taryn is not with me. I have a special guest. My special guest is Payal, and she is here to talk about how she changed careers after having her second child and about her new career. So welcome, Payal.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
Sure. I have two children, a 5-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old son. And I am married, and I also have a little doggy named Tucker.
And did you have the dog first, or did you have
Yes.
the kids and then get the dog?
I had the dog first. We got him about a year after we got married. And it was a whole thing because my husband had never wanted a dog. He was scared of dogs when he was younger, and somehow, I don't know, I convinced him because I had always wanted one, and I was never allowed to have one as a child because my parents were like, no, you're not going to take care of him or her, and we're going to take care of him or her, and that's not what we would do. Anyway, so I had to wait till I was an adult and living on my own.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we got him.
Nice. Yeah, and everyone's going to be very excited to know that you are not a teacher. This is my first guest on the show that is not a teacher, and I do know people who are not teachers.
You know lots of people, Laura. Let's be real.
I know. So Payal and I actually met through American Cancer Society. We ran together for a few years, and that's pretty much how we met. I wouldn't say we see each other, but we stay in contact through social media. That's, one of the benefits of social media. So that's been helpful.
Yeah.
And do you still run?
Not nearly as much as I used to. I think after having kids, it just became harder to commit the time to training for, marathons and half marathons. So I started spinning and doing other forms of exercise more so than running. I go out occasionally, when the weather's nice and I want to get some fresh air. I do love it, but it's harder around where I live now too because it's very hilly, which I don't love running.
And it's not like you're going to push a double stroller and run with kids in a hilly area.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, so let's dive in. So you definitely we'll get to it, but you did have a career change, obviously, in between your two kids. So what job did you have when you had your first child, your daughter?
Yeah. So right after business school, I went into marketing. and I was working at American Express, and I spent quite a few years there actually. And I was doing marketing for a small business. And it was a good job. I mean, I loved the company actually, and I loved the people I worked with. It's a great company in terms of work-life balance and flexibility. I would say as far as corporate companies go. But I wasn't super passionate about what I was doing. You know, I thought it was a good job, but it wasn't. I didn't get super excited every day to wake up and go to work. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Not from any experience of my own, but we all have those days, definitely.
Yeah.
And so when you were pregnant, did you have to commute?
I did. So I was, when I got pregnant, I was living just outside the city. So it was an easy commute, to be honest. It was probably one of the easier commutes that I could have, because there was a ferry and it literally took 10 minutes. So the commute was definitely not an issue. And then I also occasionally got the chance to work from home. So I didn't have to commute. Yeah. I didn't have to commute 5 days a week. The company had made a shift in the first few years that I was there towards having people work more remotely, just to sort of maximize space in their offices. So, but I was commuting, but it wasn't bad.
So then after you had your daughter, like, is your maternity leave decided before you go, or do you have some flexibility?
No, they have a very clear policy in terms of what maternity leave is. When I was pregnant with my first, the maternity leave was, it was 12 weeks in total, because it was, 6 weeks of FMLA and then 6 weeks of disability, I believe. But it ended up being 12 weeks in total, which I think
is that 12 weeks paid though?
Yes, it's 12 weeks paid.
Oh, wow.
And then people tend to add on vacation time and stuff as well. So I had an interesting situation because I was kind of like I said, I wasn't super excited about what I was doing. So I was kind of in not a midlife crisis, obviously, because I'm not in my middle age yet, but still, like, I was like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know if this is what I want to be doing for work. So when I had my daughter, I actually at that time took some time off. I left my job at American Express, and I decided that I was going to stay home with her for a while, and see how that went. And so I did that. I stayed home with my daughter for, actually, it ended up being 14 months before I went back. In that time, I was kind of debating, what do I want to do? I was thinking I wanted to work for a smaller company, so I was interviewing a little bit with startups here and there. But after all was said and done, I actually realized that the flexibility and sort of all the people that I knew at the company and everything was a drawback for me. So I went back to American Express after 14 months of being at home. I kind of made the decision about when my daughter was 9 months old that I did not want to completely leave the working world. I think I was just finding, being a stay-at-home mom can be really tough.
Yeah.
And I found that although I loved spending time with my daughter, I felt that my world was getting very small in a sense, because I was just so focused on home and my daughter and my life inside the home that I kind of felt like I was losing touch with everything else. And I found myself becoming a little resentful towards my husband because, before when I was working, I felt like there was more of a balance in terms of responsibilities, both inside and outside the home. But once I wasn't working, I felt like all the work for the house and home and the family rested on me. And I don't know why, but for some reason that did not sit well with me.
Right.
And so little things became big things when it came to like, oh, you didn't even take the trash out. I mean, I do things all day long. Why can't you even help a little? And those things, they just
Right.
blew up. So I found myself being a person that I did not like. And I was like, you know what? I really think I need to go back to work to sort of re-expand my horizons a little bit, and just have more adult interaction, and also just to use my brain again in a different way, because work has its own challenges and own issues that you deal with. And it's just, I found that I was losing that sense of being able to use my mind in a different way.
Right.
So that's why I went back to work, and I went back to American Express. And then we can talk later about how I changed careers after that.
So, right. So then you got pregnant again.
Yes. So then, when my daughter was a little over 2 years old, I got pregnant again. And so I'd been back at work for, about a year. And I was like, oh, well, I'm pregnant again. And we had planned to have 2 children, but it just kind of happened a little quicker than I think we were planning.
Expected.
So I kind of went through that crisis again of like, oh man, I'm pregnant again. Do I want to stay at work at this job? Again, I wasn't loving it, right? Like I went to work every day because I felt like it was a good thing for me to do something outside the home, to use my brain in a different way. But again, it wasn't like exciting. And so I had that crisis again of like, should I be spending more time with my kids, and or should I be working? And if I'm working, is this what I should be doing? Because I don't love it, So after I had my second, I actually decided, no, I'm not going to go back to American Express. I am going to do something that I am way more passionate about. And like right when I was pregnant, I didn't exactly know what that was, because I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own business, but I wasn't sure what I could actually start a business in. And I've always been excited and passionate about health and wellness. I think ever since, even before we were training together to run the marathons, I had always been very focused on fitness and just eating well. And that was just a big part of my life. So I knew I was excited about it and passionate about it, but I just didn't know how to turn that into a business. But I had this sort of fire under me that I knew I wanted to do something, and I wanted to work for myself, because I did not want to go back to the corporate world. And if I knew I was going to work for myself and do something that I was excited about, I wanted to do something I loved, because I was going to spend my time and effort doing it. So I actually have this vision, and I still hold on to it, because long term, this is what I want to do. But I wanted to, I think after having my second, I realized how difficult it is to be a mother, in a lot of ways, not just, taking care of people who depend on you, little children who depend on you, obviously, nonstop. But I felt like it could be very lonesome, and it could be very isolating in a lot of ways, because I think I started to realize that, one, I had no idea what I was doing. Even though it was my second child, I felt like there's still so many things that you learn every day as a mother, about how to, each child is also so different. So my second was very different from my first. But I just felt like I kept screwing up. That was my biggest thing. I was like, why is this so hard? I've done well in everything in my life up to this point. Why is being a mom so hard? That was a thought that crossed my head like a million times a day. Whether it was like, forgetting to pack extra pairs of clothes when we went to the park, and then having to deal with a diaper explosion, or whatever it was just like something always going
I'm
on.
so bad at packing extra clothes.
I know.
I like every so often I'm like, oh yeah, I should put something in the bag. I could have 30 outfits, or I could have no outfits in there. Who knows?
Totally. And that's the thing too. It's like you have to think of so many things, right? And you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I haven't slept in 3 weeks, and yet I still have to like function here and think of extra clothes. But like, that's just one example. But anyways, I found it super challenging. But what I realized is that it's not that you're bad at being a parent. It's just, it's hard. And until you find other people to talk to about it, and kind of, whether it's other mommy friends or whether it's like a community or a group, it wasn't until I started connecting with other moms that I realized I'm not bad at this. It's just really hard, and everyone's kind of dealing and going through it this at the same time, and it's like, people don't like to talk about how hard it is a lot of times. I think for me, what I saw on the outside was like these moms at the park who had it all together, and I was like, why am I such a hot mess all the time, but when I got to actually know other mothers with children around the same age, I started to realize, no, everyone like struggles to a certain extent. It's just you may not see it all, and you don't know everything that's going on in their life. And
I think like I don't have any help like in this where I live.
Yeah.
So if you don't have help, like even aunts, uncles, anything, friends to help you, it's a lot harder, because people who have their parents around that can come over at any time and help them out and watch the kids. Mm-hmm. Like my mom and my mother-in-law are both great. Like when they are here, they help out and they do things, but it's not on a, day-to-day basis or an hour here or there.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, to some extent you need help, and also it's just like you need a break once in a while, because being a mother is like a 24-hour a day job. It's not like you go to work and you come home and you get a break. It's nonstop. And so, especially when they're young, when they're babies and they're nursing in the middle of the night or whatever it is, you might be up multiple times a night, and like, it's just 24/7. Anyway, so when I found out and I started talking to other moms, I realized it's all hard and everyone kind of struggles to a certain extent. But the best way to kind of get through it is to make sure that you have a community, or that you have help, or that you have other people you can talk to, and realize you're not alone in it,
Right.
And so when I had that realization, I had this vision of what I wanted to do with my business, which was ultimately like create almost a community house, or whatever you want to call it. I kind of think of it like as a mom space where mothers can come and they would have babysitting, so they could drop off their kids and just have time to be. And like, I would want people to be able to work out there and have healthy food there, and just like have a spot to chat with other moms there, have a mental health counselor on staff who could like hold sessions, or you could set up talks with, just because sometimes you just need someone to talk it through with, So it's almost like a space just for moms to be, and to take care of themselves. Because the other thing I realized is that if you don't take care of yourself, it's really, really, really hard to take care of somebody else. It makes it a lot harder. So when I thought of this, I was like, that, it would be really neat to have a community kind of space like that, because I've seen it in various aspects, but never all in one place,
Right.
Focused especially on moms. But when I talked to my husband, he's a finance guy, and he was like, well, that's like hard. It's an overhead. It's a lot of investment. How are you going to get people to come? Yada, yada. But then I was like, well, maybe I can take baby steps and start small. I have a lot of the background on the exercise front, but not on the nutritional front. And I really wanted to focus on food as well. And so then I found the school called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And it's based in the city in New York, but they have all their courses online. So I was like, oh, well, this would be perfect, because they teach you, it's a holistic approach in that they teach you a lot about food and taking care of your health through food, but it also teaches you about all the other aspects of life that create balance. So it's also about like, physical activity, spirituality, relationships, career. There's so many things that come into overall health, because you can eat all the kale and broccoli in the world, you can run 10 miles a day, but if you're not happy in your work, or if you're not happy with your relationships, or if you don't make time to take care of yourself in other ways, it doesn't mean that you're healthy necessarily. So the school really focuses on sort of looking at all the different aspects and creating a balance. And I loved that. And through that, you become a certified health coach. And so that's what I've done. And I've started a health coaching practice where I work with mothers to sort of talk through all this stuff and focus on what their health goals are. And my main focus, honestly, is to help them take care of themselves first, because I've found, like I said, if you can be confident and healthy and happy in what you're doing day to day, it's so much easier to take care of your children and your family.
Right. So what is the official name of your company?
It's called Arora Wellness, ARORA Wellness.com. So I have a website. I'm on Instagram at paurora330 and on Facebook. And that's what I do. I do one-on-one coaching for women, for moms. I do group coaching. I run seasonal detoxes where I help people just through 5 days. We do a whole foods sort of cleanse detox where you're not just juicing or, not eating, you're eating just whole healthy foods. So it's like a very good way to reset eating habits and get into really healthy eating. I do those every season. And then I also run workshops.
And do people have to come in person, or do you do it all remotely?
I can do it all remotely. I do a lot of my sessions over Zoom. So like Skype, it's just video chatting. So I have clients, all over the country. I have local clients. So they don't have to come in person. The workshops tend to be in person. So I do those at local areas. I'm having one coming up at a local community place in a town nearby. So those tend to be in person, but the rest of it is all virtual.
That's pretty good. So anyone could really contact you then to get that help and support.
Yeah.
So then how did you deal taking those online classes online while you had 2 kids?
So the nice part about the online classes is that they release new material every week, and it was kind of up to you to pace yourself and keep up with what you could. And then they had tests every quarter. So it wasn't super difficult. It was just when the kids were at school or the kids were sleeping, I would just find the time and put in a specific amount of time a week. You get into sort of a cadence of knowing how many hours it would take to get through the material versus the studying for the tests, etc. And they do a really good job with building community for the school as well, because it's all virtual. You have study groups that are online and things like that. So, it's meant to be done sort of at your own pace, as long as you can pass a certain number of tests over the course of the year. So it's doable.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then was there you said your husband was in finance. So is my husband. Yeah. So they're always the money people. Right. Right. How was that to change jobs, or even, I know you said you started off small. It's not, you're not at your end goal yet, but you're getting there.
Right.
So how did you decide money-wise what to do and when to take next steps?
Yeah. It's hard. That is still a balancing act, I think. After working so many years in the corporate world and having sort of that steady income, it's hard to go to a place now where it's all dependent on me, right? It's dependent on how many clients I can bring in, how many workshops I do. And so it's very self-driven. And it's been a mental adjustment, because I am a lot more dependent on my husband now, than I was prior to making this change in my career. And so for me, it's a shift in thinking, because now I think I'm just a lot more careful with budgeting in terms of spending on necessities versus any luxuries at the moment. I used to not think as much about it, but now I do, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I mean, I think anytime you have to put your kids in daycare. I mean, you have a
Right.
whole nother payment, even if you have never thought about it before. There's no way that after putting your kids in daycare, you're not thinking about
Yes.
money in some way.
Very much.
Um, so I
Yeah.
think it's just, yeah, like you said, it's not maybe necessarily you can't get things. It's just you just get what you need, and
Right.
that's
Right.
all you do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more of a focus on, do I need this? And also, you know, I still like to invest in certain things that are self-development or development for my business. And even in those decisions, it's like, well, I have to think about whether I can actually earn enough to pay this off within a reasonable amount of time, you know?
Right.
So is it even worth me investing in this extra course or this extra coaching as a business owner? Because now I'm like, well, do I really think I can bring in more clients through what I'm learning in this course in order to pay off this course, you know?
Right.
So it's a shift in terms of thinking about investing, I think.
And again, in new companies, you're investing a lot up front.
Right.
And then as you're going, you're like, oh, yeah, I need to add this and this. And you have to
Yeah.
make those choices of what do I absolutely need? Because I still haven't made enough
Right.
to bring back the money in.
And it's scary. That part's scary, you know, because nothing's guaranteed. I mean, I have a lot of passion and belief in what I'm doing, but nothing's guaranteed that I'm going to all of a sudden have like so many clients, you know?
Right. It's not like if I
So,
do this, then I'll have 20 more
right.
people sign up today. Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
then changing from your corporate world to now, I mean, obviously it's not like you wake up and you go somewhere all the time.
Right.
So what does a typical day or week look like? Do you only work Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
Are there only certain hours?
No, I mean, it's super flexible. So I have a certain number of clients right now, and we have set session times every other week. So, you know, those times are set in stone, and we set that before we sign our contract to start our I do 6-month one-on-one coaching programs. So,
Mm-hmm.
so those are kind of set in stone. But around that, it's very flexible. So it's, you know, I take my kids to school. I do a lot of the pickups. I have to manage all of, you know, the grocery shopping, etc. And so I work best when I set time sort of slots for myself. So I tell myself, okay, well, because I'm so used to going to an office and working certain
Right.
hours to like all of a sudden not have any structure, it's challenging. So I try to set myself up where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to work out after I drop the kids off, and then at 10 to noon, I can spend 2 hours, you know, on Mondays working on my newsletter. And on Wednesdays, I can spend 2 hours, you know, researching new ideas. And on Fridays, I can spend 2 hours just thinking about marketing for my upcoming detox. And there's a lot of marketing that goes into starting a new business, you know?
Yes.
And so a lot of my time is taken up just thinking about how to market, where to market, you know, how to reach new moms and how to reach other people that I'm not already talking to. Social media. A lot of my time is taken up on social media, which I don't know how effective it is. I assume it's effective because a lot of people build their business this way, but it's hard when you don't get a lot of feedback, you know.
Right. I think social media is very hard. I am not a social media person, so
Yeah.
it's very hard for me to all of a sudden to have to be on it. And you're right, I don't get enough feedback. Like I don't know, am I getting more listeners because of that
Yeah.
post, or is it just a random thing that people heard about it, and so 8 people just decided that today they were going to subscribe.
Right. It's hard because there's no like direct feedback mechanism to know what's coming from where. But you know what I believe in, what I've seen with other successful health coaches is that you just keep putting out good content and people are listening and watching. And then if they, you know, if they believe in what you're doing and sort of think your services are valuable, at some point in their journey, they will reach out to you, you know?
Right. I mean, I know it helps me to see what you post on social
Well,
media,
that's
especially Instagram, because it's like
good.
sometimes you do need that reminder, like, hello, you have time to go to the bathroom without someone screaming at you today.
It's hard, right? As a mom, you forget these things. You forget that, yes, you are supposed to go to the bathroom by yourself, and it's okay if your kid is sitting out there for a minute, right? They're
Right. Like, they'll be
they're
fine.
so yes. Um,
Yeah.
it is hard, and I think that's the biggest message that I like to tell other mothers is that it's so important to take care of yourself. Whether that means like getting in your shower today, because a lot of days I was like, oh my God, I didn't even shower today. And it's like the end of the day,
Right.
or just, whether it's trying to find that time to exercise, to get outside, to get fresh air. It's just whatever it is that feel is your non-negotiable, to do it, because again, if you can't take care of yourself, it's that much more difficult to live your best life and also to help your kids live their best lives.
Right. And if you're saying that, you're eating healthy and you're working out, it doesn't mean that those are the only two things that make you a healthy person.
Right.
So if you're wicked stressed out because you are just trying to manage your child and eating healthy and getting in those workouts, that's not going to help either.
Yeah, no, it's not. That's why, a lot of what I do too with my moms I work with is breathing and stress management. Because I know in my own life that's a big deal. Like just not feeling so stressed all the time, and the only way I can do it I've learned is through a lot of breathing exercises, and it's helped me in terms of having more patience with my kids too. Because I was becoming like one of those moms that yelled all the time, and that was not somebody I wanted to be,
Right.
And so I've found just when I have a moment to like just do 5 minutes of breathing or just sitting quiet, and it's meditation in a sense, but it really has helped with in the moments of stress to not have the reaction rather than not reacting, but just taking a break and a pause and breathing and then addressing the situation. It helps.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you got to come on, Pyle. I would love if you could remind everyone of all your information, the name of your company, your website, your social media, how they can contact you.
Awesome. Yeah. So my website is aurorawellness.com, ARORA wellness.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Parora, Parora 330. And on Facebook, it's either Arora Wellness or my name, Payal Arora. And that's how you can get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And if there's any way I could help you listening out there in terms of health, please do reach out.
Yes, and also all of that information will also be in the show notes of this page on my website, and I will try and put them all up different spots wherever they are for social media. So,
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Pyle, for coming on the show and telling us all about Arora Wellness. And hopefully we'll get to have you on again to hear about maybe some specific clients or some specific programs that you want to offer that people on the internet can be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Lauren. And thank you again. I'd love to be on anytime. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed Pyle's interview. I really enjoyed it. It really made me realize how I have to start making some positive changes in my life. Again, if you want to contact Pyle, you can follow her on Instagram at Parora330, Parora 330. And if you want to go head over to her website, it's aurorawellness.com. It's also up on my website and up on my social media. So it's easier to just click on that. That makes sense too. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope you can support other mothers also. And I hope to talk to you guys next week. Bye.